you've stated, I think you'd agree that $53 million has in fact been spent on the Startup New York campaign. Is that correct?
I would say that money's been spent on promoting New York State as a place to do business.
But not, well, the ads were not Startup New York specific?
That the ads included reference to Startup New York, but that for now many years we've been promoting New York State as a place to do business.
So it was, yeah, you've said that it was about changing the perception of New York as a friendly place to do business, right? But in fact, $53 million was spent. Do you agree or disagree with a statement that he has repeatedly made, by the way, that Startup New York costs nothing?
I think what he's referring to is that Startup New York, the companies aren't paying any taxes currently, so they're startup businesses. We're not foregoing revenue that you had, been receiving in the past, and so in that sense, it's not a cost in terms of removing what had been some annuity of revenue.
Well, that's not completely true, and I'll get back to that in a second. But in fact, his own division of budget states that it will cost us $323 million over the first 3 years of operation. Do you agree with that or not?
I'm not familiar enough with it. I definitely don't agree with it based on what I know. No.
So we're saying that the division of budget is not correct in apparently stating that we are losing revenue. And I guess the governor's tortured logic is that because the companies weren't here, they weren't paying it to begin with, so therefore it didn't cost anything. However, I don't think there's any doubt that $53 million went to an advertising campaign overwhelmingly targeted towards Startup New York. Do you agree with that or disagree?
I've answered the question.
Not really. The GEMX plant in the GE GEMX plant, the Empire State Development, your agency has listed I think a $12.5 million grant to GEMX. Is that, you're familiar with that grant? It's a GE subsidiary.
Yeah.
GEMX shut down. Is there any plan or any ability to recoup that $12.5 million?
I think we have recouped some.
Some? Okay.
Yeah.
Any idea how much?
I don't recall offhand, but yeah, we did.
Okay. The original plan for Startup New York was about $150 million, as I understand it. And the original plan, or the original projection was for 4,000 jobs. It created 408 after $53 million. It's now in its third iteration. It started as tax-free New York. That apparently didn't fly with polling. And it was immediately changed to Startup New York, and now we're on to the Excelsior program again. If it's such a success, if Startup New York was such a success, and just a week ago, the governor said that Startup New York effectively applies to every single one of our economic development programs across the entire state. Well, if that's the case, why are we abandoning the Startup New York name after spending $53 million? Because